Right guys, we're on the second leg of our flight. We go into Kansas City to the Major Cup, so stay tuned. We're in Kansas City eventually after what's like seems like a lifetime, but I think it's like 24 hours journey.
Over 24 hours.
Yeah, so yeah, we're in the airport just literally waiting for a taxi to get us to the hotel. But obviously we wouldn't be ourselves if there wouldn't be any problems. So we are here, but our luggage isn't.
Typical.
Yeah, so slow. Unfortunately, we've got our hand luggage with all the clothes and everything, so we're good.
But the meads were
the meat is gone. Hopefully, we'll be reunited with us soon. The competition starts tomorrow, so yeah, we just cannot wait. We'll keep you up to date. Day one of Major Cup, so yeah, we're ready. We're just gonna get some breakfast and head to the place where all the judging is happening. We're in the Kansas City in Cinder Block Brewery.
Day one Major Cup.
Thanks to this brewery, all the judges obviously coming here to judge your entries. Commercial entries on the day 1 and 2, and then home entries for day 3 and 4. We also know there will be like award ceremony, which we obviously, we already got tickets for that ceremony, so we'll be there. What's the first impression?
Background on like software and judging system looks very promising. A little bit similar what we have in Europe on Mead Madness Cup. But we already saw a few things what we might be adapt to our system. But to be honest, we can actually tell how it's work on the end of the judging. So that's for now. First time in the Kansas. We only one represent from Europe.
Looks like it, yeah.
So we're gonna try represent well. I hope so. We will. So stay tuned and we go.
See you later.
Yeah.
Major Cup has almost always been in Colorado, and some logistic issues with our hotel, and then Carvin and I had talked about it that if we want to make this truly an international competition, it needs to move different places. And also if you held it at the same site all the time, you tend to have a lot of the same judges come, and I think you get a broader spectrum of different people's palates if you move it, because there tends to be regional bias here. Like some areas seem to lean towards sweeter mead, some towards drier, and I think if you move it around, we get a better overall picture of what people here in the States are looking for.
Right.
And our hope is now to move it every 3 years. That's kind of plan. We want to move it to a different place. With our grand plan is maybe sometime having it in Europe. That's our ultimate goal. I think we have some of the best mead judges in the world here. We don't let anybody judge here that isn't a qualified mead judge, not necessarily BJCP, but that has, industry experience. Like we have people that are very versed in wines, and like some sommeliers are going to be here. And yeah, we don't let anybody judge a mead that we wouldn't let judge our meads.
And if I haven't tapped you on your shoulder and told you you're doing a bad job, you're doing a good job. Because people come to this comp for quality feedback. We finally got a mechanism to where we can look at that real time. What are we about at this comp?
Sensory.
Sensory with a dash of more sensory. We want you to describe what you're smelling and what you're getting and what you're tasting, and that means stay away from trying to fix stuff. People can fix their own stuff if you do a good job describing what they have. We had a mead with the most butyric acid I've ever smelled in my life. You put that on a score sheet, it forces that person to go look that up and make themselves better. Anybody got any questions? Let the judging begin. Have a great day.
Yeah, it's very good. Carvin in charge was the answer. Carvin's doing a fantastic job. It's been really well run, super easy to judge at. Great location, good people, great stewards.
Well, apparently stewards are more important than judges. Is that correct?
We just try to keep things going. Well, we have to make the judges happy. That's what we're here for.
When we're doing stewarding, you want to keep the judges going all the time, so it's, work really hard and then wait a bunch while the judges do their thing. But it's been a lot of fun too, and worth doing.
You run lots of beer competitions as well.
Yes, I do.
What's the main difference behind the scene between mead and beer?
Judges are slightly different, how they approach it. Product is obviously different. But then I would probably say with this one, we're doing a home and professional at the same time, where a lot of them are just a single one competition. So it's really two competitions, not just one. So, all right.
I've made all kinds of meads. I feel like you've not mastered the craft of mead making unless you can make excellent meads in all the styles. And for years I hadn't made a braggot that won a medal. I hadn't made a Sizer that won a medal. I hadn't made a Polish style mead that had won a medal. But then I focused on those and I won gold medals in all of those categories.
So what will be your advice to people who would like win best of show on such a competition like Mazer Cup?
First thing is learn how to make good mead without flaws. If there's the least bit of thing that's off, you're not going to win a medal. Second bit of advice, really focus on balance. Really focus on tasting trials to get that sweet and that acid dialed in, or tannin. That's probably the most common reason for not winning a medal is it's a good mead, has a lot of potential, but the balance is off. And then, make sure that you're entering the right category. We see that a lot, where somebody's that's just a silly, mistake to put it in the wrong category. And then the final thing is, when you make something, you've got to think about differentiating yourself from the crowd, making that little extra thing, whatever it is. Because, at a competition like this, they're all really good. Some are really good. And it's hard for the judges to pick, what's going to medal and what isn't. And sometimes it's just a little thing that separates the one that wins a medal. And that's really your artistic creativity. And we're all going to be inspired by different things. So what I might make that I love that'll win a medal may be completely different than what someone else's makes.
If you would invite someone to send the mead to the Mazer, what you will say, why he should or shouldn't do it that?
So it's a great way to get feedback on what you're making. A lot of us, we're making mead by ourselves, and maybe our friends like it, but I don't know if your friends are like my friends, but my friends are happy for any alcohol that I let them drink, if it's free. But if you want to get feedback on things you can do to make it better, or things that you can do to keep doing, it's a great way, because it's blinded. We don't know who's made that mead, and we'll give our honest feedback.
got involved in mead and my mead started getting better, I thought mead is a style that needs more support, and I was thinking about how to do that. And I talked with some guys, Mike O'Brien and Dan McConnell, who were my good friends. There is no mead only competition. Why don't we start one? They both agreed, and so we thought up a name. We thought up the name of the Mazer Cup, and we went ahead and sanctioned the competition. That was in 1991, and we held the first one in the summer of 1992, and that's about how it came about. There were 47 entries in the first competition, and it wasn't huge, but on the other hand, it was really wonderful, and there were some spectacular entries, including the Best of Show winner, which was from a professor at Cornell University named Dr. Robert Keim, and he won with Meadery Cherry Mead, and that really got me starting the competition and tasting that first mead really launched me into mead big time.
Brilliant. Are you still involved in the Mazer Cup, or you can like step down now and let other run it?
I've stepped away, and in fact I stepped away. I had run it many times between 1991 and 2003. I'd been the competition director. A couple of years I was two of the organizers. I was a competition director and registrar one year because help was difficult to find. And my other partners in this, Dan McConnell and Mike O'Brien, and eventually Hal Buttermore, these were really capable and competent people, and often had a hard time pulling themselves away from the job. So I did that for about 10 or 11 years, and by the time the book came out, it was clear that if I was going to continue to do the things that I needed to do to support the book, I needed to step aside from the Mazer Cup. When we first got started, there were 7 categories, which we expanded out to 8, and they were the basics, things like traditionals. We had a category called Show originally, and a category called Traditional. And Show Mead was a mead that had only honey and water and yeast and yeast nutrient if it was needed, which it pretty much always was. And then there was another category called Traditional, and Traditional allowed the use of small amounts of spices for complexity, so that it wasn't spices or other ingredients for complexity, because that was really the traditional style of mead. Our contention was that if you looked at traditional recipes like those from Sir Ken Digby's book, the traditional meads contained lots of other little ingredients, and that the Show Mead created its own category for strictly honey-only meads. So that's gotten, the Show category's been eliminated. The need for categories for things like barrel-aged meads has come about. We had a category called Open Mixed, which permitted people to enter things like spiced fruit meads, and all of that has gotten changed. And they've also separated out the things so that all of the meads in one category aren't competing directly against each other with varying sweetness levels. Now there are dry subcategories and medium and sweet subcategories, and that's very valuable. I think those are great changes that have occurred, and much of it's occurred with the Mazer Cup because the hobby and the trade have forced it to be the case. There are so many different meads being produced right now that wouldn't be fair to have everybody compete in the same 7 or 8 categories that we started off with. We also started off with a Hippocress category because that was what was in the book, the Brewing Mead, Wassail and Mazers of Mead book, and we thought, well, we'll just make a category out of every category that's identified in this book, and there was no need for a Hippocress category after a few years. So things got adjusted that way.
So you think it's easier to get medal prize today, these years, or it was easier in 1995?
Well, no, I think it probably was harder back in the mid to late 90s when we were running the competition, because at that point the competition had gotten up to be 300 entrants, and you were competing for a total of 24 prizes. And so yeah, it was very tough to win a prize back then. And I'd like to think we gave away some really spectacular prizes. We were having goblets thrown at the Pewabic Pottery, which is a really famous pottery in Detroit. And the prizes that we gave away were really spectacular. They were also pretty doggone expensive. and so we kind of made it hard to win one. And if you won one and you still have one, those are some coveted prizes. There are only what, 250 of those mugs sitting around in the world right now, and there's some spectacular artwork in addition to being wonderful prizes for a competition.
Was Measure Cup at the beginning just like a home mead competition, or was it commercial, or when did you actually decide to have them both?
Actually, there were commercial entries. All of the entrants, both commercial and home entries, were mixed in the original competition. So there were people who were permitted to enter the competition, and after the commercial people began doing pretty well, we announced that we would separate out the prizes so that you could place, but the top three home mead makers were the people who would end up taking home one of the goblets, and the people that were from commercial meaderies didn't get those.
What would be your advice for people who are sending meads to Measure Cup? What they should think about, how they should create meads to actually increase the chances to win?
Well, I think the advice to mead makers is the same advice I would send to commercial or home mead makers. But the most important thing is to be brutally honest with yourself, to be very frank about whether or not your mead is as good as you think it could be. There's a lot of the concept of elementary school meads, elementary school ESP meads, elementary school play meads, and that's from David Sedaris skit, in which it was made clear that people give a lot of slack, cut a lot of slack to their own kids when they're appearing in the elementary school play. They can say that their kids were absolutely spectacular because it's your kid and you don't want to say anything bad about your kid. And if it's your mead and you have a very ownership biased opinion of how good that mead is, you have to let that go. You have to let that go and get yourself some really good commercial examples. It's going to be obvious from if you look through the last 2 or 3 years worth of Measure Cup results, you can buy some of those meads and compare your mead with that mead and find out where you actually feel like you stand. So be honest with yourself about that. And if what you're doing is entering to find out how your mead compares, that's wonderful. That's very valuable. It's a great way to learn. And you'll find out from your score sheet if what you perceive as being there is what the judges are perceiving as being there. And so being honest and a little bit humble about what your results are like is really important. It's important to recognize and allow for the fact that there may be things about your mead that everybody doesn't love as much as you do. The Measure Cup has been attached to the leadership of the mead community pretty much since its inception. And I mean, you could qualify Dan and Mike and I as leaders in the mead community because no one else decided they were going to start a mead-only competition, and we did. And so now you are working with the pioneers in the industry. And when I decided I was not going to be organizing the Measure Cup any longer, and the people who had been running the International Mead Festival decided that they were going to have a new name for their competition, I talked to them. But what you're talking about there is the vanguard of the mead community handing over the reins to the Measure Cup to the new vanguard of the mead industry. And so it's good to know that the most credible and competent people in the mead competition world are handling the organization and execution of the competition, and that you're going to get back good feedback. You're going to get comments that have been reviewed, you're gonna know that there's gonna be one really good, and when I use the term really good, there's a few people in the world that say I'm given to understatement. These are really good judges. These are, in a lot of instances, great judges. If you're getting a score sheet back with Steve Fletty's name on it, if you're getting a score sheet back with Pete Baklick's name on it, if you're getting a score sheet back with Ken Schramm's name on it, these are people who know their way around a glass of mead, and their commentary is going to be just, and they're also going to be able to go through the flight of meads that they have in front of them and very accurately and unbiasedly assess what the best 2 or 3 meads in that flight are going to be. You know you're going to get an experienced palate. You know you're going to get legitimate comments, and for the most part too, hopefully you're going to get comments that are diplomatic and intelligent and well phrased, and not, you're not going to have somebody give you 19 points because they don't like the taste of cilantro and you put cilantro in your mead. That kind of stuff just shouldn't be happening and shouldn't happen at all at the Mazer Cup.
The best of show just finished for the commercial meeting. Was it a difficult choice?
It was a difficult choice. It took them, there was quite a bit of discussion once it got down to about the last 5. I mean, at that point, at this level, there's so many great meads. It did take them a little work to get there, but in the end, they all decided on the same one.
Would you say that was the 5 best palates in America judging that best of show?
5 of the best, yeah, absolutely. We screen our judges pretty well, and they're invited to come to this, and we ask them ahead of time because some of them came specifically just for this. We want to make sure we have the best people making that choice.
Pete Baklick, the president of Mazer Cup.
Correct.
How long have you been holding that post?
Since 2007. Yeah.
And have you been involved with Mazer Cup before?
Not in Ken's day. Ken Schramm actually started the Mazer Cup in 1992, and then I started the home mead maker competition at the International Mead Festival in 2006. And in 2007, it came to pass that the Redstone Meadery had a lot of things that they needed to concentrate on in their business, so they could no longer put on the competition or the International Mead Festival. So it fell to us to kind of pick up the ball and run with it. So a bunch of us were talking with Ken, Glenn Exline, Danny Exline, Vicky Rowe, and myself. And Ken popped up with the idea, why don't you take the name of the cup, the Mazer Cup, and run with that. And we said, well, we want to make sure there's a clear distinction because Ken started the Mazer Cup. So he said we're going to go ahead and start the Mazer Cup International and really reach out to the international community and engender some participation in the competition because, there's a lot of people outside of the US and Canada that are, mead enthusiasts, mead producers, and there's, professional, and we knew that Poland had a long history of mead. We knew that they're down in South America, people in Australia and such, and we'd seen entries from those places as well, even South Africa. So we're going to make a concerted effort to go out and try to get entries from the international mead community. And the first couple of years we got entries, but there weren't as many as we were hoping. And then after that, word got out and we started getting more and more and more. And we have had entries from all over the world now, as far away as India and Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, South America, from Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Ecuador, Costa Rica, Mexico, Canada, lots of places in Canada, China, Japan, Korea, Switzerland, France, Poland, of course, Slovakia, Slovenia, Croatia, Italy, Denmark, Belgium, France, England, Ireland, everywhere. So we're doing a really good job of pulling in the international community, and I think what's really interesting about it is everybody has a different perspective on everything from traditionals to fruit meads to spice meads, and they all bring their own gravitas to the table as far as what they're making. So, you know, different floral sources, different approaches to making it, and different flavors and different kind of textures in the meads themselves. So it's real education for judges who get to try these different kinds of things, go like, oh, I never thought of that. That's a really nice combination.
Can we talk about numbers? Because obviously Major Cup is the largest one in the world. There's no bigger competition. So what kind of like numbers you reaching every year, and is that year's the peak, or you actually had a peak and now you kind of like a decline? And can you just tell us a little bit about how is that changing within the years?
Sure. Before COVID hit, our largest year of entries was about 1,200 entries. And after that, it started to decline. This year we had 900. We had 1,000 the year of COVID. We had to postpone for 6 months because March 13th was the day we were supposed to start the competition, and March 13th is the day that the country got shut down because of COVID. So everything, no flights in, no flights out, everything shut down. Couldn't get together in public places or have crowds larger than 25 people together, and everybody had to be sheltering in place. So it's been very difficult to grow the judging pool. At that point, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 105 to 107 judges sign up until COVID hit, and then after that, every year it's been anywhere from 30 to 35, somewhere maybe up to 40 if we're lucky. So we've had to be very careful about the number of entries we take, because otherwise we'd be here for 2 weeks judging 1,200 meads, or depending on the size of the judging pool. So it's been a new challenge, but we've been growing every year again, and we'll be back up to those numbers in no time. It's just a matter of people getting used to the idea that post-COVID, you have to be careful, you have to take precautions, and it's okay to travel, it's okay to get out there and socialize, as long as you're taking adequate measures to make sure that you're not transmitting or receiving COVID-19.
Obviously, Pete Beckel is the president, but what is the rest of the team behind the Major Cup? Because it's it's just too huge to be one-man show.
Well, Carvin is the competition coordinator. He and Scott Shar do the home and pro respectively. So Scott runs the pro competition and Carvin runs the home competition. We have the Kansas City Beer Meisters here, the homebrew club, that are basically staffing for stewarding and pouring and general logistical things. We have some of our folks that have been with the competition for a long time. Myself, Wayne Bonchik, and Kyle Byerly have been there since the beginning of the Major Cup. And the International Mead Festival's Home Mead Maker Competition. So we've been here the longest, but Carvin has been aboard for a long time, since we moved from Boulder to Broomfield. And Carvin's a dynamic guy. He gets a lot of people involved. He's out there a lot. He's one of the best mead ambassadors you could ever hope for. And to have him associated with this competition is a blessing.
How do you choose judges for the competition? Who actually is involved to decide, oh, you can be a judge on our competition or you not?
Well, we need to know that we've got experienced judges who can tell the difference between good mead and bad mead. A lot of that's by word of mouth. A lot of that is folks that we've judged with before who we know can judge. Most of our judging pool is by invitation. We don't just blindly accept somebody who says, hey, I'm a mead judge, and signs up. We want to be able to have some kind of a reference point as to the quality of their judging and to the amount of time and experience they have as well, especially in larger competitions, because you can't have somebody sitting at a judging table for 20 minutes on one mead. That's, they need to be able to make an assessment and move on quickly. I think the thing that I'd say to people that want to enter the competition is, number one, go to the website, mazercup.org, and go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/mazercup. Read the information, read the instructions. Don't send emails going like, when is the competition? What's the address? What are the rules? Can you send me all that information? No, I'm not going to send you that information. It's all out on the website and out on Facebook. Do a little reading, do a little diligence, figure it out. The thing that is frustrating is you put send 3 bottles. Can I send 2? Yes, you can send 2, but if one of them breaks, you only have 1 bottle. And if you are going to go to the next medal round and there's not enough to pour, you're not going to go to the medal round. You're not going to win a medal. So think about it. I mean, if you're spending the money on shipping and spending the money on the honey, send 3 bottles, for crying out loud.
The winner of Best of Show, how you described that? I mean, you don't have to say the name, but what was the category?
It was a dark fruit mead that was very, very nicely done. I don't remember the exact category because all we see is the entry number. That's all we focus on. I don't really look at the entry category number unless I have a question about is it in style correctly. But it was a dark fruit mead, very balanced, very nicely done, appropriate amount of sweetness and tartness and tannin. Fruit was represented well, great balance with honey, great mouthfeel, great finish, nice mid-palate presence and foremouth impact.
How would you like to summarize this year's Mazer Cup?
Great meads, great friends, great judges, great volunteers. It's just awesome when mead people get together in the mead world. We just have a great time, and just happy to be here. Just happy to be around so many friends.
So, are you going to do it next year, next time?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what we'd like to hear.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And I'll see you in Poland in February.
Yeah. See you later.